In 2026, Britain said goodbye to 5 extraordinary people. An actor barely known outside Belfast theatre circles. A porcelain expert millions watched every Sunday night. A jockey who once rode the Gold Cup winner. A model who once stared out from a Vogue cover. A musician who played guitar next to John Lennon before the world had ever heard of the Beatles. 5 different lives, 5 different diseases. And every single one of them fought it in front of the people who loved their work, which is exactly why their stories deserve to be told properly. Michael Patrick was 35. You'd have seen him for about 90 seconds as a wildling in Game of Thrones, blink, and you'd miss it. But in Belfast, he was something bigger. A playwright and actor who co-wrote My Left Nut, a show so good it won 2 Royal Television Society Awards. In February 2023, a neurologist told him he had motor neuron disease. It's a condition that gradually shuts down the nerves, controlling your muscles, walking, speaking, swallowing, breathing, while your mind stays completely clear the entire time. That's the part people don't talk about enough. You're fully aware of everything your body is losing. Patrick didn't hide it. He posted about it. He kept working. And here's what's genuinely remarkable. He played Richard III on stage, in a wheelchair, while living the exact physical decline the disease causes. He died on April 7, 2026, 10 days after entering Northern Ireland hospice, surrounded by his wife Naomi and his family. This is the part people miss about MND. There's still no cure. Not a slow-it-down drug, not a fix. Just time and how you choose to spend it. Patrick chose to spend his onstage. Theo Burrell. If you've ever watched Antiques Roadshow, you know Theo Burrell, the ceramics expert with the easy laugh who could tell you the story behind a chipped teacup like it was a thriller. In 2022, at 37, she was diagnosed with glioblastoma, grade 4, the most aggressive brain tumor there is. The honest statistic most people never hear. Average survival after that diagnosis is measured in months, not years. Burrell got almost 4. Here's what's wild about her story. She didn't disappear from public life. She got married in March 2026. Her son started school. She used every one of those milestones to push people toward Brain Tumour Research, the charity she became a patron of, telling anyone who'd listen to take persistent headaches and neurological symptoms seriously. She died peacefully in July 2026, surrounded by her family. Her family's own words were that neither she nor her medical team expected it to happen quite so quickly, which tells you something about how brutally unpredictable glioblastoma actually is, even when you're doing everything right. Graham Bradley, Brad to everyone in the weighing room, rode Bragorn to victory in the 1983 Cheltenham Gold Cup, in a race so dominant his trainer saddled the first 5 horses home. He also won the Champion Hurdle and the Irish Grand National, 686 winners across a 22-year career. Semantic dementia is not the memory loss dementia most people picture. It attacks language and meaning first, the names of things, the words for what you're looking at, while other parts of the mind stay intact for a long time. Imagine knowing exactly who someone is to you and losing the word for it. Bradley fought it for 5 years. His fellow jockeys said plainly that he'd been unwell for a few years now. This wasn't whispered about, it was known, and the racing community rallied around him and his wife Amanda the entire time. He died at home in late June 2026, and by every account, the last thing he heard was his family telling him it was okay to go. Here's the double standard worth naming. We build entire highlight reels around a jockey's split-second decisions at 30 miles an hour, but almost nothing is said publicly about what a brain disease like this actually does to a rider who lived by reading a horse in an instant. Annabelle Schofield, before she was Laurel Ellis on Dallas. Annabelle Schofield was a teenager from Llanelli, Wales, who left home at 16 and ended up on the cover of Vogue, shot by David Bailey, walking for Versace and Yves Saint Laurent. She was first diagnosed with cancer in 2023. What makes her story different from the others on this list is how she handled the financial side of it in public. She ran a GoFundMe, openly describing being alone most days and worried about paying rent while paying for treatment. In late 2025, the cancer spread to her brain. She had surgery to remove a mass from her nasal cavity in January 2026, wrote a hopeful update on the 20th, and died just weeks later on February 28. Would you have made the same choice, to document a cancer battle publicly, money troubles and all, instead of disappearing from view? It's a genuinely hard call, and Schofield's openness is part of why so many people who never watched Dallas still knew her name by the end. Len Garry. Before there was a Beatles, there was a skiffle band called the Quarrymen, and Len Garry stood next to John Lennon and Paul McCartney playing a tea-chest bass at their first ever gig at the Cavern Club. Garry's connection to that story almost didn't happen twice. As a teenager in the 1950s, he had to leave the band after a serious bout of tubercular meningitis. He came back decades later, in 1997, and stayed part of the group's legacy until the end of his life. In March 2026, at 84, he was admitted to hospital with a chest infection that turned into pneumonia. His daughter Jane got him home in an ambulance so the family could be with him. He died surrounded by them, hours after doctors said there was nothing more to be done. Pneumonia doesn't get the dramatic headlines that cancer or dementia get. But here's the pattern worth connecting. It's one of the most common actual causes of death in people whose bodies are already frail from age or illness. And it's exactly what took the man who was there before the Beatles existed. 5 people, 5 diseases, a nerve disorder, a brain tumor, a rarer form of dementia, cancer and pneumonia. None of them hid what was happening to them. If anything, they used the platform they had to make sure the rest of us understood these diseases a little better. That's the real story here, not secrecy, but the opposite of it. If this helped you understand what these 5 actually went through, hit like and subscribe, and tell us in the comments which story stayed with you the most. We'll see you in the next one.